Taylor stated that she charged at him and he shot her somewhere in the upper body so he would not be scratched. Taylor then told them that he leaned over her body and shot her in the back of the head. He leaned further, looked at her face, and watched her bleed. That's what Larry Taylor Jr., an 18-year-old burglar, told his accomplices about killing Amanda Blackburn. The 28-year-old pastor's wife, who was 12 weeks pregnant when he broke into her home, shot her twice and left her dying on the floor while her 15-month-old son slept in his crib upstairs. Welcome back to Dark True Crime. Before we dive into one of the most senseless, brutal murders you'll ever hear, hit that subscribe button right now. Because this case shows how a random home invasion destroyed a family, gripped a city in fear, and took years of mistrials before justice was finally served. November 10th, 2015, Indianapolis, Indiana. The sun hadn't even risen yet when Pastor Davey Blackburn woke up around 4:30 a.m. in his home on Sunnyfield Court in a quiet northwest Indianapolis neighborhood. It was his routine. Wake early, read his Bible, pray, then head to the gym for a workout before starting his day as lead pastor of Resonate Church, the congregation he'd founded 3 years earlier. That morning, Amanda Blackburn was still asleep in bed, 12 weeks pregnant with their second child, a daughter they'd already named Everett Grace, nicknamed Evie. Their 15-month-old son, Weston, was sleeping peacefully in his crib. It was a normal Tuesday morning in what felt like one of the safest neighborhoods in Indianapolis. Davey kissed his pregnant wife goodbye around 6 a.m. and headed to LA Fitness. He left the front door unlocked because they only had one house key at the time, and it was on Amanda's keyring. In their safe neighborhood where they'd lived for 3 years, where they'd go for walks with the garage door wide open, locking the door didn't seem necessary. That unlocked door would cost Amanda her life. Around the same time Davey was leaving for the gym, Larry Joe Taylor Jr., 18 years old, was already out with his accomplices, 21-year-old Jalen Watson and 24-year-old Diana Gordon. They'd been on a crime spree since the pre-dawn hours, breaking into homes while residents slept, stealing anything they could sell for quick cash. Their first target that morning was a home where they stole a laptop, a purse, and a car while the residents slept. But they'd made a critical mistake. A video camera had been recording them the entire time. According to a cooperating witness who later spoke to police, Taylor wanted to kill the occupant because he was seen on camera. The only reason they didn't murder that first victim was because they decided to move on to another house instead. The second home they hit, they broke in through a patio window and stole 4 TVs, a laptop, jewelry, a bag of oranges, and a pink sweater. That pink sweater would eventually help police identify them, but on that November morning, they had no idea they were leaving evidence behind. According to court documents, after the second burglary, they decided they wanted more money. So they drove through the quiet northwest Indianapolis neighborhood looking for their next target. And that's when they saw the Blackburn home on Sunnyfield Court. The house looked nice. It was in an affluent area. And most importantly, the front door was unlocked. If you've ever left your door unlocked, even for just a few minutes, thinking your neighborhood was safe, drop a comment below. Because the Blackburns never imagined that one unlocked door on one Tuesday morning would lead to unspeakable tragedy. Taylor and Watson slipped inside the house while Gordon stayed outside as lookout. Inside, they found Amanda Blackburn, the 28-year-old mother and pastor's wife, awake and going about her morning routine. What happened next would shock investigators and haunt a community. According to Taylor's own account to his accomplices, Amanda charged at him when she realized intruders were in her home. This pregnant mother, trying to protect herself and her baby son sleeping upstairs, confronted the men burglarizing her house. And Larry Taylor Jr.'s response was to shoot her somewhere in the upper body so he would not be scratched. But that wasn't enough for Taylor. After shooting Amanda once, he leaned over her body and shot her in the back of the head. He leaned further, looked at her face, and watched her bleed. Taylor stood there, watching a pregnant woman bleed out on her living room floor, showing no remorse, no humanity, no recognition that he'd just destroyed multiple lives for absolutely no reason. Then, he and Watson ransacked the house, stealing items before fleeing the scene. Around 6:45 a.m., neighbors heard gunshots. They saw an SUV peeling out of the otherwise quiet street. But in that safe neighborhood where nothing bad ever happened, they probably assumed it was nothing serious. Maybe a car backfiring. Maybe fireworks. Nobody called 911 immediately. Davey Blackburn spent about an hour at LA Fitness, working out, completely unaware that his wife was lying dying on their living room floor. When he finished his workout, he called a friend and stayed in the driveway talking on the phone for a while, not wanting to wake Amanda or Weston with his conversation. Finally, around 8 a.m., Davey entered his home, and what he found would be seared into his memory forever. Amanda was lying face down on the floor near the fireplace and Christmas tree, naked from the waist down, unconscious and bleeding. Their son Weston was still in his crib upstairs, unharmed, but now motherless. Davey called 911. The recording of that call, filled with panic and horror, would later be played in court. Amanda was rushed to Community Hospital North, but the damage was catastrophic. She'd been shot twice, once in the upper body and once in the back of the head at close range. On November 11, 2015, one day after the shooting, Amanda Blackburn died at the hospital with her husband holding her hand. Their unborn daughter, 12-week-old Evie Grace, died with her. Indianapolis Metro Police immediately launched a massive investigation. The case drew national attention almost instantly. A pregnant pastor's wife killed in a home invasion in a safe neighborhood while her toddler son was home? The story was everywhere. News crews camped outside the Blackburn home. The congregation at Resonate Church was devastated. And Davey Blackburn, just 28 years old himself, suddenly found himself thrust into the spotlight while trying to process unimaginable grief. Police assured him early on that neither he nor any family members were suspects. Surveillance footage from LA Fitness showed Davey arriving and leaving the gym exactly when he said he did. He wasn't involved. He was just a husband who'd gone to work out and come home to find his pregnant wife murdered. Amanda didn't have an enemy in the world, Davey told NBC News in the days after her death. And it was true. Amanda was beloved. She was described by friends as a role model for everyday life, someone who radiated kindness and faith. She and Davey had moved from South Carolina to Indianapolis in January 2012 to plant Resonate Church, and they'd built a thriving congregation. They were young, in love, passionate about their faith and their community. The couple regularly posted on social media, sharing glimpses of their life together. In YouTube videos, they'd answer questions from their congregation, offering marriage advice and insights into their relationship. In one video en route to a romantic getaway in Chicago, Davey said, "You can lead your wife best by just being a really, really good godly example to her." Now that beautiful relationship, that partnership, that future they'd planned together was gone. Ripped away by an 18-year-old burglar who wanted to steal a few $100s worth of items and didn't want to get scratched by a pregnant woman defending her home. Make sure you're subscribed to Dark True Crime, because the investigation that followed, the arrests that shocked the community, and the years of legal battles before Larry Taylor Jr. finally faced justice will show you how senseless violence ripples through entire communities. Indianapolis Metro Police worked around the clock following leads. They collected surveillance footage from neighbors' homes. They tracked the stolen car from the first burglary. And they found that pink sweater stolen from the second home, the one discovered in the getaway car, a 2007 Chrysler Sebring, found abandoned a few miles from the Blackburn home. DNA evidence on that pink sweater led investigators to Jalen Watson, who was already in police custody on a parole violation in an unrelated case. Once they had Watson, the entire crime spree started unraveling. Phone records, witness statements, and eventually Watson's own cooperation led police to Larry Taylor Jr. and Deano Gordon. On November 23, 2015, just 13 days after Amanda's murder, police announced the arrests. Larry Taylor Jr., 18, and Jalen Watson, 21, were charged with murder and a litany of other crimes. Deano Gordon, 24, was arrested and charged in December 2015, though he wasn't charged with murder because he didn't enter the Blackburn home. When mugshots of the three suspects appeared on the news, Davey Blackburn experienced something he'd never felt before in his life: When I first saw on the news the guys that now stand trial for having killed my wife, up to that moment, I was dealing with a lot of sadness. Just a lot of intense, deep grief. But when I saw their faces, immediately I experienced something I've never experienced before in my life. I experienced a deep, dark, scary, frightening rage. I never experienced that before, and honestly, it freaked me out, Blackburn later revealed. For a man of faith, a pastor who preached about forgiveness and grace, feeling that level of rage was disorienting and terrifying. But it was also completely understandable. These were the faces of the men who'd murdered his pregnant wife, who'd orphaned his son, who'd destroyed his family for a few $100s and a pink sweater. The details that emerged in court documents were even more horrific. According to a probable cause affidavit citing a cooperating witness, Taylor had given his accomplices a blow-by-blow account of killing Amanda. The affidavit revealed that Taylor stated that she charged at him, and he shot her somewhere in the upper body so he would not be scratched. Taylor then told them that he leaned over her body and shot her in the back of the head. He leaned further, looked at her face, and watched her bleed. And there was more. Although Amanda's underwear had been removed and her shirt pulled up, prosecutors said there was no evidence to support sexual assault charges. But the implication was clear. Taylor had violated Amanda in ways beyond just shooting her. He degraded her, dehumanized her, treated her death like entertainment. As the arrests were announced, Davey released a statement. Though everything inside of me wants to hate, be angry, and slip into despair, I choose the route of forgiveness, grace, and hope. Those words would be tested over and over in the years to come, as the case dragged through the court system with mistrial after mistrial. What nobody knew at the time was that getting justice for Amanda Blackburn would take nearly 7 years, 2 mistrials, COVID delays, and a bench trial before Larry Taylor Jr. would finally be held accountable for what he did on that November morning. The road to justice for Amanda Blackburn was long and painful. In 2017, Jalen Watson accepted a plea deal. He agreed to testify against Larry Taylor Jr. in exchange for having murder charges dismissed. Watson was sentenced to 29 years for robbery leading to serious bodily injury and 10 years each for 2 counts of burglary. Deano Gordon also took a plea deal, agreeing to testify against Taylor. That left Larry Taylor Jr. as the sole defendant, facing murder charges. But getting him convicted would prove incredibly difficult. The first trial attempt ended in a mistrial in December 2021, when Judge Grant Hawkins learned that some jurors had discovered Amanda was pregnant at the time of her death. The defense had successfully moved to keep that information from the jury, arguing it would unfairly prejudice them against Taylor. When jurors learned about the pregnancy anyway, the judge had no choice but to declare a mistrial. Think about that for a second. The fact that Amanda was carrying a 12-week-old baby girl when Taylor shot her in the back of the head, that Amanda died protecting not just herself, but her unborn daughter, was considered too prejudicial to share with a jury. The legal system was protecting Taylor's right to a fair trial, while Amanda's family had to watch the process drag on for years. The second trial attempt in June 2022 also ended in mistrial, when one of the jurors revealed to the others that she knew about the case's history in the court system, information she'd previously told the court she didn't know. Another mistrial. Another delay. Another blow to Amanda's family, who just wanted someone held accountable. If you've ever watched a case drag through the court system for years, or had a loved one whose justice was delayed, drop a comment below. Because for Amanda's parents, Phil and Ellen Byers, for Davey Blackburn, for everyone who loved her, these delays were torture. Finally, in August 2022, prosecutors and the defense agreed to a bench trial, meaning Judge Grant Hawkins would decide Taylor's guilt or innocence alone without a jury. The trial began in September 2022, nearly 7 years after Amanda's murder. Davey Blackburn took the stand and testified about that horrible morning. He described his routine, waking at 4:30 a.m., reading his Bible, going to the gym around 6 a.m. He explained leaving the door unlocked because they only had one house key. He talked about staying in the driveway on his phone call, not wanting to wake Amanda or Weston. And then he described entering the house and finding his wife face down, naked, unconscious and bleeding near the fireplace and Christmas tree they'd been decorating for their son's first real Christmas. The emotion in the courtroom was palpable. This wasn't just a criminal case. This was a young family destroyed by senseless violence, and everyone in that courtroom felt it. Prosecutors presented the DNA evidence from the pink sweater, the surveillance footage, the phone records, the stolen car. They brought in Watson and Gordon, who testified about Taylor's confession, his description of shooting Amanda, watching her bleed, showing no remorse. And then Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears laid out exactly what happened. Taylor and Watson had burglarized 2 homes that morning and decided they wanted more money. They saw the Blackburn home, found the door unlocked, and entered. When Amanda confronted them, Taylor shot her to avoid being scratched. Then, as she lay dying, he shot her again in the back of the head. He violated her by removing her underwear and pulling up her shirt. He ransacked the house while she bled out. And then he fled, leaving a 15-month-old boy motherless and a pastor's life shattered. The defense argued there was no physical evidence placing Taylor specifically at the Blackburn home. Watson and Gordon had both taken plea deals, and their testimony was inherently unreliable. Maybe Taylor hadn't been the shooter at all, but Judge Hawkins didn't buy it. On September 22, 2022, he delivered his verdict: guilty of murder, guilty of burglary, guilty of theft, guilty of criminal confinement. Judge Hawkins found Taylor guilty on 12 of the 14 charges he faced. He was found not guilty on 2 robbery charges, but on the murder charge, the one that mattered most, Taylor was guilty. Amanda's father, Phil Byers, spoke to reporters after the verdict. "We're grateful for the verdict, but we have been trusting in both the Lord and the system. 7 years of waiting, 2 mistrials, countless court appearances, and finally, justice." Larry Taylor Jr. was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. He'll die behind bars, exactly where he belongs. But Taylor's crimes didn't end with Amanda's murder. During the investigation, police discovered that just days before killing Amanda on November 4, 2015, Taylor had murdered another man, Rolando Gonzalez Hernandez, over just $10. Taylor shot Gonzalez Hernandez in the head during a robbery, killing him for pocket change. He was convicted of that murder as well. So in an 8-day span in November 2015, Larry Taylor Jr., 18 years old, had committed 2 murders and multiple burglaries. He destroyed 2 families. And for what? A few $100s in stolen goods? $10 from a robbery victim? A pink sweater? The senselessness of it all is almost incomprehensible. Amanda Blackburn was 12 weeks pregnant, a devoted mother, a pastor's wife who'd moved to Indianapolis to serve her community. She'd done nothing wrong. She just happened to be home when a burglar decided he wanted more money and found her front door unlocked. After the verdict, Davey Blackburn continued his journey of healing. He'd remarried in December 2017 to a woman named Christy, who had a daughter from a previous relationship. Together, they've built a blended family with Weston and Christy's daughter and have since had more children together. In January 2019, Davey resigned from Resonate Church to focus on a new ministry called Nothing is Wasted. The name comes from his belief that God doesn't waste our pain. God's not to blame for our pain, but he has a plan for our pain. The ministry helps people process trauma, grief, and tragedy through faith. In August 2024, Davey published a book also called Nothing is Wasted, a true story of hope, forgiveness, and finding purpose in pain. In it, he chronicles his journey from that horrible November morning through his grief, rage, struggle with forgiveness, and eventually finding peace and purpose. One of the most powerful parts of Davey's story is his honesty about the racism and prejudice that arose in him after Amanda's murder. When he saw the faces of the 3 black men charged with killing his wife, he experienced feelings he'd never had before. "I experienced a deep, dark, scary, frightening rage," he said. "When that racism, prejudice began to arise in me, it shocked me." Davey sought help from a black pastor in Indianapolis, sitting down with him and admitting, "I've had to wrestle with these new feelings of prejudice and racism." That pastor met Davey's confession with empathy and helped him work through those feelings, helping him understand that his rage was about what those specific men had done, not about their race. That level of self-awareness and willingness to confront ugly emotions is rare. Most people experiencing similar trauma would simply nurse those feelings privately, letting them fester. Davey chose to face them, get help, and work through them. It's a testament to his faith and his commitment to not letting Taylor's actions turn him into someone he wasn't. The journey to forgiveness was even harder. In 2015, shortly after Amanda's death, Davey said he didn't forgive those responsible. How could he? They'd murdered his pregnant wife, orphaned his son, destroyed his life. Forgiveness seemed impossible. But over time, through therapy, faith, and support from his community, Davey began to see forgiveness not as condoning what Taylor did, but as releasing the hold that rage and bitterness had on his own heart. If there is one thing I've learned from Amanda in the 10 years we were together, Davey wrote after the arrests, it's this. Harboring bitterness and anger does nothing but steal more moments of my life away from me. Forgiveness didn't mean Taylor shouldn't be punished. It meant Davey wouldn't let Taylor continue to steal his life, his joy, his future. It meant choosing to move forward instead of being forever trapped in that moment of horror. Today, Davey Blackburn runs Nothing Is Wasted Ministries, speaks at churches and conferences, hosts a podcast, and raises his children with his wife, Christy. He's turned his tragedy into a mission to help others process their own pain and trauma. I don't want people to read my book and say, wow, Davey's an incredible guy, he explained. I want them to say, wow, God is an incredible God. If God can get Davey through this, he can get me through whatever I'm going through. Amanda Blackburn's memory lives on, not just through Davey's ministry, but through the lives she touched during her 28 years on earth. Her church community remembers her warmth, her laugh, her dedication to service. Her family remembers a daughter, sister, and mother who loved fiercely and lived fully. And Weston, who was just 15 months old when his mother was murdered, is being raised with stories about the amazing woman who gave him life. The case also led to important conversations about home security, about the randomness of violence, about how quickly a normal Tuesday morning can turn into unimaginable tragedy. The Blackburns lived in a safe neighborhood. They were good people doing good work. They never imagined something like this could happen to them. But violence doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care if you're a pastor or a criminal, if you live in a safe neighborhood or a dangerous one. It's if you're pregnant with a daughter you've already named, or if you're single with no children. Larry Taylor Jr. proved that when he decided a pregnant woman's life was worth less than not getting scratched during a burglary. Make sure you're subscribed to Dark True Crime, because next time we're covering another case of senseless violence, where an innocent person became a victim of someone else's cruelty, and where the fight for justice required years of perseverance from those who refused to let the case go cold. Until then, lock your doors, even in safe neighborhoods, even if you're just running to the gym for an hour, even if it seems like overkill. Because Amanda Blackburn's story shows us that one unlocked door on one random morning can change everything. Amanda Blackburn was 28 years old when she died. She was 12 weeks pregnant with a daughter she'd named Everett Grace. She was a mother to 15-month-old Weston. She was a wife, daughter, sister, friend, pastor's wife, and beloved member of her community. She deserved to raise her children, to grow old with her husband, to celebrate Christmas with her family that year. Instead, she's buried with her unborn daughter, 2 lives stolen by an 18-year-old burglar who wanted more money and didn't want to get scratched. Larry Taylor Jr. is serving life without parole for Amanda's murder, plus additional time for the murder of Rolando Gonzalez Hernandez. He'll never walk free. He'll never have the opportunities he stole from Amanda and her unborn daughter. And every day he spends behind bars is a reminder that senseless violence has consequences, even if those consequences took 7 years and 2 mistrials to finally arrive. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, lock your doors. And remember that justice may move slowly, but it still arrives for those who refuse to give up the fight. I'll see you in the next video.